Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera Dent, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being part of my Dental A Team family. I seriously love doing this podcast. I thought I was going to hate it, and I love it. I love it so much because I get to connect with you. I get to hear how this podcast is helping you and your practice be better. So if you have loved this podcast and you are willing to share, I would greatly appreciate if you'll share with your friends, if you'll leave us a review, if you'll give us 5 stars, anything you can do. Just like you guys grow your practices, we're trying to grow this podcast to positively impact the world of dental. This is how we get to grow our Dental A Team family. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental A Team podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
2 perspectives, 1 mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. All right, Dental A Team, this is Kiera Dent, and I am excited as always because the guest that I have today is one of my good friends. She is brilliant at everything she does. And I think it's an awesome topic for us to talk about with teams because I'll be real, this is not one of my areas of expertise. Marketing is my Achilles heel. Mark Costas and I talk about marketing as that piece that we know we need, but both of us will say marketing's our Achilles heel. So this is my awesome friend, Laura Edvalson, and she does the marketing for the Dental A Team. So all of you who watch our cute Instagram pictures coming up and all those amazing posts, yep, that's Lauren and her team. They're fantastic. Our website was done by Lauren. Lauren has coached me a ton. I worked with a lot of different marketing companies as I've been growing, trying to figure out who they are, like which ones are good. And I will tell you, I've been burned so many times by marketing. It's not even funny. Like we're talking an $80,000 mistake on marketing in 3 months. That was a real big moment for me in my life. And so Lauren she's awesome. I feel like she's one of the best marketers that I've ever met and she gets it. So with that intro, Lauren, how are you today?
I'm good. Wow, that's the best intro ever.
Tell Mark. I'm getting better at my intros. Yes, absolutely. And I mean every word. You're fantastic because like I said, I've been burned by so many marketing companies. So when people ask me for marketers, I'm very jaded and I just feel like they're crooks. They're crooks out there and you get a 3-month leeway. And like, well, if it doesn't work out in 3 months, like we took all your money and ran. And I really have a hard time with that. So if any of you are marketers, I apologize if I'm offending anyone right now. But Lauren, tell us kind of like your background, let people know a little bit more about you.
Yeah. Well, gosh, first of all, your story of, when you and I first started working together, your story of where you came from the marketing space, like really hurt my heart because
it was
just
brutal.
Seeing the stuff that you've been through. And I guarantee not all marketers are really out to get, dentists. And I think tends to be the general consensus. And so, I sort of aim to, just be real with clients and really transparent because it's so important to, have them understand like what their investments are driving and what's marketing and what's advertising and what's supposed to be a lead gen and what's not, that kind of stuff. So, but a little bit about my background. I came from I have about a decade of media experience. So I came from the local newspaper, moved into their digital side, and then was recruited by a client who when I first started with them, they had no marketing department. They just kind of winged it and done it themselves and grew to be about a $30 million company, which was amazing. But they were stuck and they didn't know digital and they just didn't know how to move the needle forward. And so in the 5 years that I was there, I took them from 30 million to 50 million. Wow. And part of that was expanding services. The other part of that was really, getting a good handle on the digital space from an SEO perspective, PPC, online, digital, everything that there, was to know about digital, we were changing. So So a lot of their budgets shifted over to online from traditional media, TV, radio, billboards, that kind of stuff. So that was a really great experience. But then I became a mom and I started having kids, and just it felt really conflicting for me to be in a 7 to 6 job and have 2 little kids at home. And I just started to feel really torn. And so the opportunity came. I had one freelance client and my husband said, go for it. And we had a tiny little 1,100 square foot house. I started with a Craigslist desk in my kitchen. I love it.
That's how the best stories start, right? I was always those Craigslist purchases. And the fact that you survived it, that's even better.
And it's really fun to look back now to go, oh my gosh, this is where I, started. So we started very humbly, and my intention was never to grow into a big giant agency and get every dental client out there. And I really never intended to be a dental marketer. It just sort of organically happened that way. And so, I've been really fortunate to grow my business 100% on referrals. I've never advertised or, really put anything out there. I don't even do social media for my own company. If you look at our Instagram, I think I posted like once last year and it was actually our graphic designer that did that. So,
hey, that's great. That's all you need.
Yeah. So I've been really lucky. And I know a lot of dental offices too that have built their practices just on a referral. So there's a lot of, it's kind of a myth that you have to spend a ton of money to get a bunch of new clients. I mean, there is, absolutely, if you want to be on a path of having 40 new patients every month, that's, there's an investment there for sure. But if you are fine, like I was, with a slow and steady growth, there's room to do that organically and just by creating great relationships and delivering good service. So
I love that. Thanks for sharing, because I think marketing is one of those zones. I go into offices all the time and they're like, well, we don't know what to do with Kiera, so we're just going to have her do marketing. And it's like, just post on Facebook or just go do some Instagram and then there are people that are so excited. They're like, I really love this marketing piece. But the reality is the bulk of us aren't trained on marketing at all. We just think like, well, I'll just post some cool pictures on Facebook and Instagram and like, let's see if we can get new patients, or let's do this drawing and so I'm super excited because obviously I think if anybody knows the Dental Aid team's vision, mission, and direction, it's you, because you're our marketer. So if you don't know it, it's going to be a problem. Right. But I feel excited because we were chatting and you've got a lot of good ideas of how to incorporate dentists and team into marketing. And so I wanted to dive into that with you today because you had some brilliant ideas of how, and I love this because teams I didn't know, besides taking those cool, like, I can't feel my face when I'm around you pictures, I didn't know how to actually be helpful in marketing. And so I'd love your insights of how teams, and then also giving some nuggets for the doctors, because you work with so many dental offices on marketing. I think you've got a really good insight for all of us today.
Cool. Well, so I would love to talk about that, because I think one of the little caveats to marketing is it usually just stays with the doctor and the person that's answering the phone, right? So the doctor makes the investment. They're working with the marketing company. They're not always able to or have the time to communicate to their teams what's happening with the marketing, and they move on to the next project, right? So there's so many things that they're managing, so many things that are going on, let alone, the patients, but just running the business. And so it starts off really positive and then it kind of falls to the wayside. And so I would say my most successful clients are the ones that are super engaged and they stay engaged and they keep their teams engaged. So everybody knows, part of you guys talk a lot about on the podcast, KPIs and, team meetings, and having those be so super important. Everybody have total clarity on what's happening and what the goals are in the practice. But I wonder how many offices are incorporating new patient goals and marketing initiatives and community outreach and review goals and all of that stuff into their meetings. And I would say that's, a really crucial piece to have everybody really have a clear understanding of like, here's where we're at, here's where we need to be. And that doesn't stop just at the front desk. That should be the hygienist. That should be every person in the practice, so that they know, that they're a piece of that too. And everybody wins when the practice is growing, right? Everybody stays busy, your schedules are full, and you're able to help more people. And so I think that's, kind of the key piece that I see that's missing in a lot of dental practices is just the overall communication and having a clear plan for what your marketing strategy is. So like if 1 month they're running a teeth whitening special, do you have a flyer printed at the front desk? Is the front desk person, talking to that every patient about that is, are the hygienists mentioning it? Hey, did you know, by the way, we have this teeth whitening special. You don't have to be pushy, but just, feel comfortable enough having a conversation and answering questions if they have questions about it, because those are the best people to be able to answer that. Is it safe? Does it hurt? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think really important for doctors to incorporate their entire team into the marketing strategy so everybody knows that they can have a part in helping the practice grow.
I love this perspective because I have not thought about this. I feel a lot of times with marketing, what we do is we pay a ton of money and we put it on autopilot. And it's like, well, it should do something like Johnny Appleseed. Like, let's sprinkle some seeds out there and see what will take root. But I love this idea of, is your marketing actually being tracked? Are you tracking that ROI? And then also having every single team member on there, because like we talk about all the time of, if the team is centered in the same direction, like if we're all focused and we're all headed in the same direction, that's where you get maximum growth. So it's just like with anything. And I will confess, Lauren knows, she can totally tell you that this is true. But even with us with marketing, we just had a call, what was it, a week ago, Lauren, where we realized, hey, I did exactly what I think most doctors and office managers do. Here's the marketing team. They're taking care of it. I can take my eyes off of that and take care of these 75 other bubbling pots. But we realized poor Lauren over here does not really know like where we want to go. We're not checking in with her. We're not watching the KPIs really. And and I realized like I'm just spending money and I'm not even making sure it's working. Right. And I didn't have my whole team on board. Like they didn't know what we were working on. Lauren, I think I sent you 4 different promos for the same week and asked you to like make it happen. Because there was no foresight in it. There was no calibration. There was no traction in that marketing. And so I love that you said, and I think if your team, I don't know if other people feel this way, but I feel, and Lauren, you're an owner as well of a company, but I feel when my team knows what we're doing, I am held way more accountable because I don't want to let them down. As opposed to just being like in the back of my mind, a project I took care of and they have no clue. So I love that you said, get your team behind it, let them know the promos. So how would you recommend setting this up the best way? So if it's a doctor, office manager, team member, how do you recommend like building a month or a year marketing plan, or how do you get your team involved in this whole marketing piece where they actually can move the ball forward instead of just posting on Instagram?
Well, and then, you also have to think about the types of services that you're offering for your practice. And so when you're sitting down to write that plan, it really comes down to, obviously we start with the services that you are the most profitable for your practice, right? But you can't push just one service all the time. So you have to diversify to attract people to eventually, come in for dental implants, but maybe they initially come in for, a cleaning special, or maybe they initially come in for an emergency exam special, or whatever that may be. So I think there's different ways to communicate the specialties in your practice and then kind of choose what you're going to market. But I would say just make a monthly calendar and say, I usually start with like the dental health holidays. Those are super fun. And that kind of drives like some social engagement. So if it's National Tooth Fairy Day, which there's one in February and one in August, maybe calendar out one of those to have an in-house promo where, everybody, any child that comes in from a local school gets a free, toothbrush and floss, or like a marketing packet to take home. If they come, take a picture with the tooth fairy. So there's a lot of things that you can do just in terms of in-house promo that doesn't cost a ton of money, that, it's a little bit more effort on your part to coordinate, but really it does incorporate the whole team to be there and be present and have some fun with it. That may be one promo, right? Then the next month you might do something on dental implants. And then the next month you might do something on, an education piece. Maybe on, the whole month might be driven towards talking about your intraoral cameras and how amazing the dental technology is in your practice, same-day crowns or whatever that may be. And I think dental offices really struggle to incorporate the dental technology. They're spending a lot of money on those, tools, and they're really amazing. And the diagnostic is clearer than ever now. And, how are we communicating that to patients? Is it well documented in your website? Or do you have a video about it? Are you explaining it well? So, taking a look at those things and maybe calendaring out a month being dedicated just to really fine tuning that messaging across all platforms. So the marketing initiative doesn't always have to be a sale or a coupon. It can be something that's just educational awareness, clear and focused. So So I like to kind of guide the marketing calendar that way. I would say it should be a mix between marketing, which is, the awareness piece, and advertising, which is the sale piece.
That's very, very helpful, because I think all the time when I think marketing, it's just run sales. It's not necessarily the educational piece, because we're trying to get people into the office. We're trying to make sales. Mm-hmm. And I like that you talked about having that education piece. So I'm curious, this is totally not scripted. You have no clue what I'm about to ask you. And I'm guessing it's different per location, because working with offices nationwide, I find that there's a lot of different things going on. Certain things will work in certain areas. But what have you found that works the best? Is it mailers? Is it Instagram posting? Is it website SEO? Is it promos? Is it the flyer for the new patient special? And does that actually, I have an office in Idaho, and they're constantly running these like $39 or $59 new patient specials, but their retention rate is terrible. And I think you probably need to swap that up, because you're just getting these patients who are shopping around. So from your standpoint, I know you work with a lot of offices, and like I said, it could totally be different across the nation, but what do you find are some of the most successful campaigns? So it's marketing or advertising. I'm going to say advertising campaigns that you found. Now that I feel educated on this, I'll be super smart. What have you found, especially for dental offices, that works really well to get those new patients in, or to get those specialty implant or those higher dollar people that you found that work really well?
That's a really smart question. So one of the things that I find when I talk to doctors that I've never worked with before, that maybe have been burned by a previous marketing company, is they're like, oh, I've tried this and it didn't work for me.
Yep, that's me. I'm totally anti-ClickFunnels right now. So
Right, totally. And, maybe it just wasn't done properly. What was the strategy behind it? How was it structured? And one of the things that's really interesting is there's no degree in search engine optimization. So anybody that's providing SEO services, including myself, does not have a degree in that. We didn't go to college for SEO. It's research, it's studying, it's classes, it's online CE. I'm using dental terms, but it's not CE for us. But,
I like it. We get it.
Yeah.
We're with you.
So it's online courses, but you are self-taught. You're just having to stay up on the trends. And Google, when I run, marketing reports for clients, Google changes their algorithm multiple times a month. And so something is changing all the time. And so you're constantly having to be aware of what those changes are, and, lots of education. And so, that just comes with, if you're committed to doing that service, really staying on top of it. And from what my experience is, some marketers are kind of stuck, like, this is the way to do it, and that's it. There's no other way. And so it is very fluid. So it is hard to say, but, from an advertising standpoint, I love online marketing for so many reasons. And I'm not one of those people that's like anti-mailers. If those work for you, for sure, keep doing them. But I love online for the transparency in the reporting. So, I know there's a bunch of different call tracking services out there. Personally, for my agency, we use CallRail. I've tried other services, and I just have not found them to be as strong as CallRail in terms of the technology. And it's also very affordable. So you put a code on your website, and it puts a masking number on the front of your website. So it changes the phone number for the user that's visiting, but it doesn't change it for Google. And so, you can set up a phone number for your postcards, or, your Facebook page or your Instagram page. It won't affect negatively your SEO ranking. It's called a keyword pool. And so, you can totally look it up, but it's super affordable. You can, sign up for like $30 a month, but I would encourage doctors and you're right, it does depend on their geographical area, to really track what is working and what's not working. Organic, SEO is important. That should be driving about 50% of your website traffic, if not more, and be the number one driver for your phone calls. Beyond that, Google AdWords works really well. And I've heard doctors say it doesn't work in my market. It's, the specials, I think, for Google AdWords are not always implants, right? So a lot of doctors want to run implant and cosmetic stuff. Those keywords are a little bit more expensive, so you're going to spend more money there. But emergency stuff performs super well, because when somebody is in pain, they're going to go right to the internet, and they don't care they just want to know who's available, right?
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right.
And so some of my best campaigns are like open Saturdays, open late evenings, and it's a Google AdWords campaign where they're just running an emergency campaign. And those tend to perform really well. So I've had a lot of success with that. And then, I wouldn't say social is a huge lead driver organically, but it is good to have a nice presence there. And we've had some pretty good success with Facebook ads. Invisalign specials do really well for orthodontics promos. So if you can do like a really aggressive offer, $1,000 off, and then set up your Facebook ads to have them message right to your inbox and have somebody readily available to answer questions. Those tend to convert really well. But, it is hard to say because sometimes the promo might drive a ton of phone calls, but it's not getting the butts and seats, right?
Exactly.
So you do have to watch that. And that's where I say you can't just write a check to your marketing company and never talk to them. And I have practices that want to do that. And, they're just not as effective as the other ones. And so I'm always really upfront with clients. The more you and I are on the same page as to what's happening inside your practice, what your goals, what your initiatives are, the better and more successful all of your marketing campaigns will be. And we'll just measure that. So every week or biweekly or monthly that we have a phone call, we look at all of that stuff and go, what's working, what's not working, how do we adjust?
Okay. And that was actually a question I was going to ask you, and you just answered it, of how often are you tracking this information? But I think it's just like anything else in the practice, tracking it. Mm-hmm. Marketing is tricky for me because I do believe it takes a little bit of time. It is one of those time sensitive. Mm-hmm. You've got to give it enough time to work, but not too much time to destroy. And I always say certain lines, and I wonder if the girl who writes our show notes, I'm like, will she pick that for the title? Because I'm like, that was a good title right there, Danielle. So if you, but anyway,
mark that one,
Danielle. But just thinking of the KPI on this of, are we tracking it every single week? And what are we looking for? And making sure it's getting there, but making sure it's, like I said, enough time to grow something and not enough time to destroy. Because I think so often, I know I personally have done this, like we'll put a plan in place and we'll put it on like auto for the next 2 or 3 months. But the reality is, like, had I changed it a month ago or had we done something differently, could I have used that money somewhere else? And I think that's where I get hung up on marketing is I play the what if game or the could haves game. But the reality is, like you said, if you're talking to your marketing team, your whole team's on board, because that's another piece. When you were saying that, I thought, so guilty of this. I had a marketing plan in place at a dental office, did not tell the front office about this, and I expected them to convert leads. And I was so frustrated that they weren't converting. And I thought, I didn't tell them. But also making sure, because this is another thing I see of sometimes the front office, like, make sure that you have a strong closer who's taking these calls.
Yes.
Your scheduling person, unless they're really, really good at closing, might not be the best person for this. Probably your TC, who's super aware and custom. Like a TC's job is to close cases. That is their number one job. So what do you say with that, Lauren?
So Ben Kakos is the best at this. He is the best, and he's so smart. And he gives me a lot of great ideas too. And he's the client that shows up for our weekly phone call every single week, and has new ideas and wants to discuss what the changes are going to be. So he's very engaged, which is amazing. And his practice has had record numbers, over the last few years. And that is not just because of marketing, it's because of his amazing service. But I will say that it does a really good job at training and tracking conversion on those phone calls. So we use CallRail for him. My assistant sends him a daily report. So every night or every morning when he wakes up, he has an email in his inbox with all of the phone calls that came in the day before that we tracked that were marketed leads. And then we tell him, what happened. Was it booked? Was it not booked? What was the call length? That's an important, measuring.
It's huge. People get on those phone calls for like 15, 20 minutes and don't close it. And it's so sad. It's such a waste.
Or you might be running a Facebook ad campaign that is driving 30-second calls and they're not booking at all because it was just, they're price shopping or whatever. So if that's not working, then we need to look at that. So anyway, so we send them this daily report. and I don't do this for every client because it's kind of a high level package. It's a very time consuming, but she goes in every single day and listens to the phone calls. She creates the report. After listening to the phone calls, then she sends over calls that are training worthy. And so if there's a missed opportunity in those phone calls, she sends those over. She also sends over a copy of the phone call that was done really well. And so he uses that in his meetings and is actively, almost daily, training his team. And his goal is to have anybody that answers the phone be able to convert leads the way that the perfect example would, right?
That's brilliant. I do love that idea a lot.
They're not missing very many appointments or leads that come through because he's really just zoned in on how to make sure that when we do drive a phone call to the practice that it is converting into a new patient, and a new patient that is going to be long term. So
okay, Lauren, I'm totally putting you on the spot. You can say no. We can edit this out if you want to. So don't feel you're committed to this. But would you be willing to share with the Dental A team? We could put it on Instagram or wherever you think. I'm leaving that up to you. But like a sample of one of these calls that was really, really good. That's a good closing one, just as a sample, because I love this idea of don't just depend on one person in your practice and then actually tracking this. But I would love if you're open to sharing just one or two calls or like good scripting that you found that works really well on these. Because the reality is, like you said, if every person in your practice was trained up to that, not only do I think it serves two purposes. One, they can answer the phone call and close it. But two, I also think you level up your entire team to help with closing cases in the practice, not just on phone calls. Like that's a double win that Ben Kakis is doing without even, I don't know. He's a very brilliant person, so I'm sure he's put this together. But like that's a double win for your team, and practicing it and looking at your stats. He is super engaged. And I think that's a great client to talk about he literally is taking his team, leveling them up, but holding them accountable as well, instead of taking his eye off the needle.
Yeah. And it's positive too, because they do it as a team. It's not like, hey, you did this wrong. Like, why aren't you doing this? It's really positive coaching. And so I think that's also the approach. Is a lot of doctors are afraid to say, hey, you screwed this up again.
Right.
Kind of thing. So, but actually your podcast with Donna, I think it published yesterday or the day before, her scripting for those intro phone calls and accepting new patient calls is really good. She's taking control of the conversation. And I think that's where we see the biggest gap is that, the call taker is letting the customer drive the conversation and tell them what the next steps are going to be. Okay, I'll call back. Oh, how much does this cost? And so really taking control of that, leading. Really, we always train practices to ask for that contact information up front. And so you're going, hey, Kiera, can I get just in case we get disconnected, let me verify the best phone number to call you back at. Okay, great. And let me go ahead and get you set up in our system here. What's your email address? Great. Okay, perfect. What can I help you with? Are you having tooth pain, or do you need to come in for a cleaning? What can we do? And so it's really, you've already captured their contact information. If for some reason that person is a price shopper and they go, I'm going to call around. Okay, great. No problem. You can maybe return a phone call to them later in the day and say, hey, I just wanted to follow up with you. We spoke earlier this morning. I know you were calling around to, price shop some of the other practices. I just wanted to share with you the value of our practice and see if we can get you booked for an appointment. You can recall on those patients that are, and I think they would be wowed by that level of service.
Absolutely.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do there to just capture and recapture and, be engaged.
I love that. I love that you just gave so many tangible nuggets of how your team can do this. And teams, if you don't want to have a call tracking service, there are other ways that you can do this. But I think the bigger point is, are you watching your KPIs of marketing? Is your whole team engaged with you? And are you using this as training for your whole team to level up, not with just phone calls, but that's also going to help with your case acceptance as well, in my opinion. Because if you can do it on the phone where they can't even see you and can't even interact with you, you then are so much better in the office as
Absolutely.
well.
Yes.
So those are solid. Those are so good, Lauren.
Cool.
I know we had another thing to go on. So I'm actually going to save our other topic that we're going to talk about for another podcast.
Okay.
Because I feel we've just dumped so many tangible nuggets, and I want people to marketing is so hard. Okay. So actually I lied. I want to ask one more question because it's going to tie into this. How do you recommend finding a marketing company? How do you screen for somebody and know? Because I thought that I wanted Facebook marketing for Dental A Team. That's what I thought I was going into. I picked somebody like you guys. I say I got burned. These guys were awesome marketers. They really were. They just only did Facebook marketing for me. And I thought I was getting a whole package deal. Like that's what I thought I was going into. And so how do you even give us 2 or 3 questions to ask or things to filter when you're looking for a marketing company for those people that are out there when you don't even know where to go?
Well, the biggest thing is just really identifying the strategy. So I think it's fair to interview several different companies if you're looking to switch. A lot of times you'll get a referral from somebody that's working for them, and that's a good space to be in. But, I always tell doctors, look at the process. What is the engagement like? And it's not always just the investment, but what is, what's their strategy? How are they going to go about doing it? What's their commitment to, activity? And the reason, I have structured my agency as a boutique agency. And the reason for that is when I was a marketing director for this huge company, I hired people like me. So I hired SEO people. I hired a PPC gal. I hired, a website designer. I had somebody that, kept up with our updates on the website. And, I was managing, I was project managing really. And what I would find is that, we'd have a proposal and we'd have a great meeting and I'd sign and we'd move forward. And then all of a sudden they're not returning my emails for 2 weeks and I can't get a hold of them. And I'm constantly reminding them to do stuff. And there's just a gap in what I thought was going to be and what actually is. And so I think it's just interviewing a few different companies, figure out what the strategy looks like, and really sitting down and comparing those strategies and go, how is this going to work for my business? And am I willing to stay engaged with this company in the long term, right? Because, and as we talked about earlier, you can't just write the check and disappear. And that's just, you're missing so much opportunity to really create more engagement with your practice and, a personalized marketing strategy. So
I like that because I think it's a two-way street. Instead of us just interviewing them, we have to interview ourselves. Are we willing to put the commitment into this? Are we willing to be on those calls every single week? Are we willing to get our team involved? Are we willing to train our teams? Are we willing to have those conversations? And if not, it's not the right time to do marketing. If so, jump on board and get involved and make sure it's really delivering the results you want.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, we'll say, hey, because we do manage the call tracking. We don't do it to the level that we do with Ben with everybody. Cause that's just what we've developed with him. And that's
you can have a whole side business right there.
We really personalize that service. And there are companies that do that. They just listen to your phone calls and send you back reports on training. And so I know that's where he got that idea from. However, the biggest thing is just being able to, understand, are you going to, be willing to even let's say you invest in the call tracking and the marketing strategy and you're totally hands off, right? Are you willing to go in and listen to those phone calls at the very minimum to know whether or not the marketing strategy is working?
And that sounds like a terrible job. Like I think about myself and I'm like, oh, do I want, but the reality is
it's actually kind of fun.
Right. The thing is all these little things, like I always say, the things that will grow a practice, the things that will grow a business, the things that will grow you personally are those consistent pieces that we don't necessarily want to do because those are what will get us the results. I do not enjoy waking up and doing a workout every single day, but I want a darn good looking body and I want to be healthy and I want to be fit when I'm 95 years old. So I'm going to do those things consistently because that's what I want. Same thing with marketing. Yeah. Do you want your practice to grow? Do you want new patients? Do you want your team to be there? If so, you got to put in the work. It doesn't have to be hard. I'd say pick a Friday, give yourself 30 minutes, listen to 5 calls. You can put them on 2 times the speed, listen for them, and just set it in your schedule because then it will actually get done.
Yeah. And I think with agencies and marketers, even, solo marketers, be committed to a long-term relationship. So that's why I say interview a few different companies because you might not, you don't want to 6 months be looking for a new company and you really haven't even kicked off half of the strategy that you thought you were in the first place, So I would say whoever you decide to choose, be committed to working with them long-term. And that's where those phone calls come into play. If something is not working, nobody's going to get their feelings hurt. You might cut a budget somewhere and move it somewhere else. But, in the long term, just being able to, adjust and have somebody that really knows your practice.
Agreed.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was so helpful. So Lauren, if people are interested in marketing questions, I obviously want to share about your company. So if people have questions or want to get in contact, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, so our website is Edvalson Marketing. I didn't really think through the business name when I first started because we were talking about this earlier, nobody knows how to say or spell my last name.
Yep, I understand that whole Kiera name. Yeah, you and I, birds of the same feather right there. It was brilliant.
But I'm pretty easy to find. You can find me on, there's only one other Lauren Edvalson and she's also a marketer. She has blonde hair. I have brown hair. So if you Google one of us, I'm dark-haired Lauren Edvalson, and we don't know each other.
That's funny.
But yeah, they can visit my website, edvalsonmarketing.com. I'm not very active on our social media channels, admittedly, but we're there.
You can also message on the Dental A team because she's watching all the marketing. So you guys could even put a plug in there, and we'll for sure share your information on the show notes as well.
Absolutely. Yep. So.
Beautiful. Well, you guys, I hope you picked up so many nuggets. I did. I felt like I was asking questions solely for myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this personal interview I did with Lauren. But the reality is, Dental A teams, this is leveling up. This is becoming that A team. Marketing, I believe, is a huge integral piece in your practice. And Lauren, I appreciate you so much taking time today. I know you're always busy. So thanks for taking time and sharing with our Dental A team community.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, Dental A team listeners, thanks for joining me on another episode, and we will catch you next time. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.